Well, good morning. I'm Brent Adams here with your Rural Strong Morning Ag Report for this Wednesday, December 6th, the 340th day of 2023. Leading off the headlines this morning, soaring interest costs are cutting into farm profits this year, and Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley blames administration spending policies. Grassley complains the administration's spending and borrowing is hurting farmers.
Bidenomics isn't being very well received in the farm community, and some of that's directly related to the interest rates, which wouldn't be necessary if we hadn't had the inflation of last year that was caused by all the appropriations that they did in 2021 that they shouldn't have done.
Some of that spending went to help producers, billions for conservation, renewable fuels, and rural broadband. But USDA says higher interest costs by the Federal Reserve to stem inflation has now replaced fuel, fertilizer, pesticide, and labor as the main driver of farm inflation. Grassley says some farmers will suffer.
If they're stuck with that interest rate for the next 12 months, they're significantly hurt. But I think interest rates are going to come down. So if they're on a floating interest rate thing, they may benefit from that before the end of the year. If not, they'll have to wait till 2025.
When interest rates may come down again, but the Fed is keeping new rate hikes on the table if inflation doesn't cool more. And while prices for fuel and fertilizer have eased since the pandemic and the beginning of the war in Ukraine, they've not returned to earlier levels. Well, for the second month, farmer sentiment improved as the Purdue University CME Group Ag Economy Barometer climbed 5 points. November's 12-point rise in the current conditions index is a reading of 113, which was primarily responsible for this month's sentiment improvement as the index of future expectations only improved by 2 points. Both sub-indices exceeded their year-ago levels in November. The current conditions index increased by 15%, and the future expectations index was up 11% compared to November 2022. The improved perception among U.S. farmers regarding their farm's financial condition and prospects contributed to this month's more positive sentiment rating. The Farm Capital Investment Index also rose in November, although respondents who said it was a good time to invest were more likely to point to rising dealer inventories of farm equipment as a reason than strong farm cash flows. Farmers continue to be relatively optimistic about future values for farmland as the short-term farmland index held steady while the long-term index drifted lower. Well, crop insurance groups oppose a recent Government Accountability Office report the industry says is fraught with recommendations that would dismantle the successful public-private partnership that delivers federal crop insurance. In a joint statement, the Crop Insurance and Reinsurance Bureau, National Crop Insurance Services, and American Association of Crop Insurers say the report contains several recommendations that would result in reduced participation in the long run. The group say GAO mischaracterized the economics of the delivery system when it states that the increase in crop prices did not increase the workload to sell and service the policy. The statement ignores the fact that since 2011, the crop insurance industry has worked with the USDA to implement both the 2014 and 2018 farm bills. Both of these pieces of legislation increased the availability of crop insurance products nationwide. New crop insurance products have since been developed along with specialty crop and livestock product expansion. The industry charges that the workload has, in fact, increased to meet the risk management needs of America's farmers and ranchers. A group of lawmakers this week expressed concerns regarding the Department of Agriculture's requirements for the Emergency Relief Program. In a letter to the USDA, Republican Senator Roger Marshall of Kansas and Republican Representative Jody Arrington of Texas led the effort. The lawmakers say USDA's 2022 Emergency Relief Program requirements are misguided and losing sight of the relief program's intent outlined by Congress when it was created. The Biden administration's USDA made requirements that have nothing to do with helping farmers deal with natural disasters. In fact, by the USDA attaching excessive conditions to receive aid, this federal relief program could force farmers to wait even longer for assistance or completely jeopardize their ability to access the program. The letter states, quote, American producers have experienced significant losses, and the administration has taken an approach that does not reflect congressional intent, end quote. The lawmakers strongly request the USDA abandon this current program and implement the framework of 2021 ERP Phase 1 as quickly as possible. Well, South America will be one major focus of Friday's USDA supply and demand forecasts. More on that from USDA Radio's Gary Crawford.
Coming this Friday, USDA's new round of crop supply and demand forecasts, including new forecasts for U.S. exports, domestic use, and prices. However, the analysts putting that report together will not be getting any new data on U.S. harvested area or yields. And so,
harvested area and yields that we were carrying last month will just carry through in December.
So USDA Outlook Board Chairman Mark Chekhanowski says his group will be making its supply-demand forecast based partially on estimated demand for and use of this year's crops.
We're always looking at the export pace and the corn use for ethanol and biofuel production and all of those demand categories.
He says there will also be a big focus on what's going on with soybean planting in South America.
Brazil has been suffering through a historic heat wave and dry conditions.
And Mark says, of course, problems with the Brazilian crop could have major implications for competing U.S. beans. Gary Crawford for the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
And finally this morning, where might active weather be this weekend across the contiguous 48 states? Here with the details is USDA Radio's Rod Bain.
The atmospheric river leading to continuing Pacific Northwest storms this week could provide the path for one such system to make its way to the central and southern plains by Friday. USDA meteorologist Brad Rippey.
Friday, we will see a low pressure system developing most likely across Texas or Oklahoma, and that system will intensify and then move northeastward into the Great Lakes region and crossing the Midwest and the Great Lakes states by Sunday.
Significant snow is expected in the central Rockies and High Plains, while a second band of snow could develop over the weekend.
That's likely to develop across parts of the Midwest. Could be a band of heavy wet snow extending from, say, perhaps the east central plains on into the upper Great Lakes region. That could be attended by high winds.
Rain showers are expected from this system through the southern plains, Mississippi Valley, and parts of the East Coast. I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
Well, you can keep up with the latest in the world of agriculture by subscribing to the Tractors and Troubadours podcast from Rural Strong Media. Each week, I bring you agriculture industry newsmakers, hot-button industry issues, educational features, and the best in traditional country music. The Tractors and Troubadours podcast can be found at ruralstrongmedia.com or wherever you get your podcasts. We also invite you to join us daily on Rural Strong Radio, our 24/7 streaming radio station found at ruralstrongmedia.com or on the Live 365 streaming radio app for your mobile device. Each day, we bring you our award-winning agriculture programming, as well as the best in traditional country music, mixed in with a little bluegrass, western swing, southern rock, and inspirational music, and now featuring your country Christmas favorites. Again, the place to find Rural Strong Radio is ruralstrongmedia.com or the Live 365 streaming radio app. We're portable, so take us with you everywhere you go when you're working on the farm or ranch. We'll get you through those long, challenging days. Well, I'll be back again tomorrow with another Rural Strong Morning Ag Report here on Steve Shetler Media. Make it a great day, everybody.